It's the 4th of July, and this is the time of year where we celebrate living in this great country, the United States of America. It's also the time of year where sales organizations take a look, because first quarter and second quarter is finished, and we're starting to look at third and fourth quarter, and perhaps the question you're asking yourself is, what do we need to do to ensure that we hit year-end revenues? I suggest you look no further than the lessons provided by our founding fathers. Number one, examine your commitment and conviction. You know, when you go back to the Revolutionary War, it was a hard war. It lasted 8 years. And yet I believe one of the reasons our founding fathers achieved victory, independence, was because of their conviction and commitment. How many of you have worked at a goal for 8 years? 8 hours? 8 minutes? So when you're taking a look at that sales success, the question you always want to ask yourself, what are you willing to do in order to achieve that success? Second lesson from our founding fathers, celebrate. I love the 4th of July. How many of you go to those parades and you got those crazy cars going around, you got those clowns, and you got little kids scrambling for candy? It's a wonderful time of the year to remember and celebrate living in this great country. I think it's a lesson all of us, me included, could do a better job of in sales. You know, many of us in sales get into this business, we're hard charging, we're problem solvers, you know what, and we're always going to the next level. And part of the problem might be we simply never take time to sit and celebrate the victories. What did you do well first and second quarter? Ed Oakley, leadership guru, suggests starting your sales meetings this way with one question. What are we doing right? So at this 4th of July, maybe sit around and celebrate. What did we do well first quarter and second quarter? And the last lesson we can learn from our founding fathers is take a look back, history and time. You know, I love watching movies of George Washington, John Adams, because it reminds me of where we came from, where we're headed, and hopefully remind us of why that's so important. How many of you review the history of how your company started with new people and veterans? You know, I have a very good friend. He's a VP of sales, very sharp. He had the good fortune and also the talent of starting with a small company that eventually went public. One of the things he was always very careful about was making sure the new salespeople knew the story. Because they were in a nice new office, the CEO deservedly was living in a very nice house. However, he wanted the new kids on the block, as he would call them, to know the story. So he'd bring his CEO in with every new set of sales representatives going through training, and the CEO would tell the story. And a very funny one always came out. The CEO would talk about the struggles. They didn't have any money. And in fact, he was a young person starting the company. And he said, yeah, there was one time I was driving down the highway with one of my business partners. Our car broke down, and we had to leave it on the side of the road because we didn't have money to fix it. See, those are the stories that make for great legends and also great cultures. Are you sharing the stories of your history at your company? It's the 4th of July, and it's halftime. Take a lesson from our founding fathers. Examine your commitment and conviction. What are you willing to do to achieve success? Celebrate the small and big victories. And take a step back in history and maybe review how your company got started, because it will remind you that ordinary people can really produce extraordinary results. I'm Colleen Stanley, President of Sales Leadership. Thanks for joining us today.